9 months later. No.
Did you clip that in?
No, I didn't clip that in. But anyways, welcome everyone. My name is Amos Joseph, joined by my co-host Brook Potter in the UK, myself in Minnesota, of course. And this is the 10K Rum Podcast. How's it going, Brook?
It's going well, Amos. What are we on? This is number 65. Am I correct?
65.
65.
4 away from 69.
4 away from porn stars and midget mud wrestling. So, are we allowed to say midget again? I don't know if it should have been little people. Oh,
little people, which is more demeaning, but somehow more politically correct.
Oh, well, fuck political correctness. We've never been a big fan of that. I'm doing well. Had a good day in the office. The markets are going crazy as usual. I was pretty much out of every trade I was in by lunchtime today, so just kind of farting around, listening to the Glorious House of Games podcast last night. And I also listened to the Dan Bilzerian interview with London Real.
I haven't listened to that yet.
We can probably discuss a little bit of that because he got into some interesting things like psychedelics and mushrooms and, all the women and all these other things. So that was definitely an interesting interview. Maybe we could get him on the podcast.
I mean, we have a connection.
Yeah, we got like 1 degree of separation to Dan Bilzerian, right? So
it's something.
Is possible, unlikely, but possible.
It's closer than what most people have.
Yeah, that is a fact. That is a fact. How are you doing, man? What's going on?
Nothing much. It's a day. We're doing Thursdays and Sundays now, so Thursday and Sunday are my days off, and then Saturday as well. But nothing much really going on. Yeah, I don't know. There's not really too much going on. I know. Wait, go ahead.
No, I was going to say. I think you did mention that there's a new woman in your life.
New women is such a. I tell you about that's someone I'm talking to every now and then, but then it's like most of the time I'm just the way online dating is.
Yes,
you can easily get ghosted or just ghosted. Really, you say one wrong thing, you ask one wrong question, you quote unquote go a little too quickly, like, and you and I have talked about like the practice of like escalating. Like it's always, so you message once and you want to move into like phone number, Facebook, meeting in person pretty much as quick as possible, right? Not like quick, but just soon. Like Correct. A progression of, because if you're staying too long in the chat, it kind of goes stale. If you stay too long just connected on Facebook, kind of goes stale. You're just talking on the phone. Granted, talking on the phone actually is a little bit better. You can maintain a little longer there. But yes. It's like you want a progression of like upping the, if you want to say, the quality of conversation, of communication, really. Yeah.
No, you're exactly right. In fact, that was a technique. I think you got that from me. When it comes to online dating, you want to transition as quickly as possible to an in-person encounter, but you do it in stages. You do it, okay, everybody uses, I don't use this app very often. Like, can I get your number? And then you put them on whatever, WhatsApp or whatever your chatting platform is, or Facebook or whatever the case is. And then you have some conversations there, and then you basically drop it out like, okay, I'm free at this day. Let's meet up for coffee or mini golf or whatever the fuck you want to do. And you always have that progression, and you've always got to be escalating in the dating game. And a lot of exactly. Like I have a couple of people that I've been talking to online. Nothing really serious. I have an old like eHarmony type site that I think it was like a lifetime membership, so it's still active, and I went on it the other day. And so there are like 3 or 4 girls. One of them is in Moscow, so me and my Russians, I got enough Russians in my life. Another one is in London. Only face shots. I have a feeling that she's more than meets the eye, at least below the neck kind of thing. So that's usually a tell if the girl has just got either up shots where the phone is pointing down at her, or it's just facial. Yeah, you could probably be a tubbo, And then there's one more. I think she's in Essex. She's not too far from here. We'll see how that goes. But for men, it's a numbers game, right? We got to shoot at everything that moves because online dating is catered towards women, right?
Pretty much. I mean, we talked about this last week, and probably anyone who's subscribed to the YouTube channel, definitely check out. We did clipped out a little video there that showed a conversation we had last week regarding dating preferences, and we also briefly touched on like how selective women are versus how men are when it comes to online dating. Like men tend to kind of spread out their options, whereas women are very selective to, I mean, single digits when it comes percentage wise, whereas men are double digits and they'll swipe on the majority of women. It's so I actually had this, and we were talking about this just before the stream. Is some women know this, some women don't know this. Well, they know it, but they don't necessarily acknowledge it. So a lot of the people we talk to, a lot of the circles, I guess, well, at least for me, on Twitter, you have a lot of like these circles of like libertarians. There's guys, there's girls, there's a lot of different people. Heck, there's even like, trans libertarians and anarchists and whatnot. And they're all intermingling and talking and such. And surprise, surprise, the women tend to get the most followers, engagement, retweets, whatever you want to, all of that across the board. I mean, we've had people on here, that, and when I say this, it's not as a point of judgment or to kind of like, as a point of being disgruntled, but it's just a matter of fact. Like if you're a woman who's somewhat attractive, or just you're a decent person to look at, you have a good profile picture, you present yourself well, and you post some views that are, not, some might go a little edgier, but you have some pretty substantial, like, political takes or something, and you just tweet about something, or
taxation is theft.
Yeah, you literally tweet taxation is theft, and you take a picture of yourself wearing a black and yellow shirt at like out at the park. You're going to get a more engagement than a guy who wrote like a 3-page article on like intricacies of the ethics of taxation or something, something more thought out, more intelligent versus something very, very, very basic, more visual.
So are you basically saying that sex sells?
Yes. And the thing is even sex on the lowest of levels sells better than intelligent at a higher level. Like you can have just, you could, a guy, but then funny thing, the closest thing that can come to these like female, profiles is faceless profiles. So people who are working behind, so their avatar is like some sort of character rather than an actual person.
Right. Maybe we should try that as an experiment. Maybe set up a Twitter account with a chick on it or something like that, and see if we can get a whole bunch of subscribers, then change it to the 10K Rum Podcast.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked. I know we've talked. I've thought about at the time to create kind of like a incognito, like red pill type of profile.
Yeah.
Just to see where that would go. Just I guess this is the motivation of it. Like, okay, is this really going to go anywhere? Because you get a lot of that too. Because people like, it actually can create, because you have the engagement of people that are like, looking at what you're posting simply for substance and not immediately jumping to what's the avatar.
Yeah.
Also, you have a lot of engagement that'll be spun out of the idea of like, well, this is just like some guy in his basement. So more people actually being like spinning up theories of who you are. That creates more engagement too.
Interesting. Yeah. I could see that. I could see that working out. It might be an interesting social experiment to try at some point. I could probably ask my Russian friend if she'll let us use her photographs, because I don't think she's on Twitter. So, but yeah, that's. I mean,
you heard it here first, folks.
Yeah, but when we get busted for it and everybody gets pissed off, they'll know who to come to, But I mean, yeah, it is. Social media is a numbers game, just like online dating is a numbers game, and I mean, you're very active on Twitter. I think what's your follow account now on Twitter? It's
507.
yeah. I mean, it's more than me. I think I'm like in the 300s or something like that.
I mean, it doesn't, it's still, I actually haven't been using it as much lately, but I tried to create more like content and stuff, tweet more, engage more people, but Twitter is such a
Dumpster fire.
It is. And it's just weird at times. I actually surprisingly I did a little I threw out a post onto 4chan the other day just to see what happened there.
Interesting. You're really skirting the edge of the alt-right and
yeah, exactly. Oh, we're in trouble now. No, I put out a post because I had an idea for something. I wanted to see what would happen, but I was supposed to read the rules of the specific catalog that I was posting in before I posted.
Yeah.
Well, the whatever 4chan's equivalent of a subreddit is, and immediately got the post I put up immediately got archived.
Oh, really? Just got pulled into the void.
Well, yeah, I mean, people commented on it, kind of like, no, if you want to like do something, yeah. The Chan. Oh no. I mean,
because there's more than one, right? There's
4chan,
8chan, Poll.
Well, Poll is a group is within 4chan.
Oh, it's within 4chan. Okay, right.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So
it's basically just the politically incorrect thread. Like that's where a lot of your so if anyone remembers, like that's where a lot of things have come from. I think
it's okay to be white.
It's okay to be white. The Shia LaBeouf takedown of his "He Will Not Divide Us."
He will not divide us. There was weaponized autism.
Exactly. And the fabricated dog whistle of the OK symbol.
Yeah.
That came of there
or something. Yeah.
Let's just say I thought about something similar and wanted to see if anyone in 4chan would run with it. Like
don't give it away. Don't give it away. You might still want to do that, right?
So we'll see. There's a lot of good ideas, surprisingly, but yeah, if this takes off, I'll we'll see. It was posted. Some people saw it. If anyone runs with it, yeah. Anyways, we'll leave it at that. I'll tell you off air.
There we go. How do we go from like online dating to 4chan? That's a pretty interesting segue.
I don't know. Anyways, back to online dating. No, we were talking about Twitter, and then I said Twitter. Then you said it was a dumpster fire, and I'm like, speaking of like dumpster fires or crazy places, 4chan. No,
I mean, that's a technique a lot of people use on Facebook to get followers. So they put up, and this is, I mean, I actually know a social media company that does this. They promote a fake competition, right? So, or even if it's a real competition, they might actually have something like an iPhone, something small, iPad or something like that. And they say, oh, we're giving away a free iPad. All you got to do is subscribe and invite all your friends, right? So they run that promotion and stuff like that. And sometimes they actually do give away the iPad. Many times they don't. They don't even have a fucking prize, right? Anyway, you build up this huge following on this group, and then a couple months in, they just change the name or they sell it to whatever person wants to promote whatever business. And they've already got like a pre-selected list of likes, like a whole bunch of people that like this particular thing. So yeah, that's a pretty, underhanded way to get a following.
I mean, I know, you and I, we've been working on like boosting posts and stuff. What I've been doing is, like we did every week we post something, we try to like boost it a little bit. We boost, whether it's like a new podcast episode or a new video we're putting up, or even just like a standard campaign of like, subscribe to the podcast kind of thing. And it sucks. Like, I don't get how, like this is really what Facebook has kind of become, is you need to, boost your posts in order for them to get viewed, unless you like hire someone or have someone that has a good knowledge of like engaging and creating, like, knowing the algorithms and such.
Yeah.
But even that still takes, some work. So it's like you can't rely too much on just being genuine and being organic, because it used to be, you had a couple of good memes, you had a couple of good posts, and people started sharing and liking and seeing your stuff. Now with the algorithms, it's all catered. So if you're not fitting in with someone's exclusive circle of like, however Facebook views that demographic, use a demographic, it won't show you certain things. Which, speaking of, did you know, do you remember Facebook actually had this whole like, so if you look in your profile, like certain settings, you can actually find the sort of profile that Facebook has on you?
No, I don't know. I'm not sure if I know about this.
So what you can do, if you go to, I think it's facebook.com/ad/preferences, and you click lifestyle and culture, as there's a section called lifestyle and culture. It'll show a list of what Facebook sort of perceives as your interests.
Right.
Granted, a lot of it is, I think they're still fine-tuning this specific algorithm, but it just shows keywords and pages and such that are like directed towards you.
Interesting.
But it was weird because I went in there and 2 instances of basically 2 mentions of the Spanish socialist movement
are in this thing as
directed towards my profile. And I'm like, what? The Spanish socialist movement. It was like the new Spanish left, and then the Spanish workers like union or something. And then
Have
there
you been
was
looking
like
at Latin porn or something,
Oh, shut up. No. Even if I was, and if I was, it wasn't on Facebook.
Viva la sexo.
God damn it. No, and then they had like, random things like, but it had Republican Party, Democrat Party, and Libertarian Party. I'm like, does this not know what my political leanings are?
Well, you're in this. I mean, Libertarian by definition is kind of in the center. You got bits from both, sort of thing. I mean, not the modern Democratic Party. No, nobody's fought. No, that.
Well, if you look at
crazy,
you look at the traditional like political compass, and you have like the traditional Democrat and Republican Party tend to be the what is it? I forgot. I think it's their like slightly authoritarian right. They're just a slight deviation from each other. So if you look, the upper right quadrant of your political compass is where the Democrats and Republicans kind of sit. Not right next, not really close, but definitely close enough. And then you have like individuals within the party that are maybe more to the left in the Democratic Party. And then Republicans, however, stay pretty concentrated around the party. There's not too much. You don't have as much deviance, as many like deviant like politicians within the Republican Party nowadays.
Correct.
At least ones that are mainstream. Because once they kind of they start moving out into some sense of like extreme nationalism or even alt-right, they're kind of pushed off to the side. Whereas the left is forced into a position where the leftists are kind of becoming the spotlight.
I mean, I think, I don't know that many Republican senators. I mean, I know Ted Cruz, of course. I know he ran for president. I know Mitch McConnell is the speaker, and no, he's the Senate majority leader.
Yeah.
Oh,
and then
minority leader. Sorry.
And then you have like Rand Paul. You had Ron
Paul. I know. But that's it. I don't actually know that many Republicans. And to be fair, I don't know that many Democrats. I know of AOC because of the nonsense that she's been spewing.
But when you ever hear about like some sort of Republican who's labeled as a racist in a justifiable way, not just he's a racist because he's Republican, but like where they actually have like a solid like piece of like pictures from something he said on tape. That's always
like Joe Biden.
We're not getting into that. A Republican.
But this is it. I mean, Joe Biden has a little more credence to point to segregation and other things than
No. Okay, we're not. I know. I get where you're getting at, but
right. But so I was about to ask, like, who I can't. I don't know of that many Republicans, so I can't think of anyone who has actual.
What I was getting at was when you hear a
racism.
national news of
Yeah.
like an individual like that in the Republican Party, it's always like on the state level or lower. You're not hearing about that on any national level.
I wouldn't suspect so. I wouldn't suspect. I don't think the National Party would put up with that because it's already a bad stereotype for them.
You get some guy in some state campaign that basically snuck in there, and then the smallest bit of research finds out he was like a member of the KKK like 50 years ago or something crazy like that.
Yeah.
Or within enough memory, but it's just barely there. You'll find some guy that's like, or he's like some sort of fundamentalist Christian preacher that's like really onto some crazy stuff. But that's always like on a lower level. Like you're some state representative that's running in some small district in some state that no one really cares about. Some guy just snuck under the radar, and then of course, the outrage machine is like out there trying to find this, and they find it. But it's like, oh, I mean, so then they call him out, and then he doesn't win.
Right.
Election. And then that's that. But then you've got AOC, Ilhan Omar, Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren. You got all this. You even have people like Andrew Yang. You have a lot of this like really hardline left stuff that's just making it all the way to the top.
Yeah. I don't know if you saw the Tim Pool video today about basically AOC's funding does not actually come from the congressional district that she's supposed to represent. So there's a lot of outside money, and I'm pretty sure both parties have this kind of thing going on. So I don't think, because again, you're lobbying in Congress. There are companies all over the country that want deals and special favors and stuff, and they're going to contribute to the campaign. But I thought it was interesting that in a proportion of all of them, from Ilhan Omar, Elizabeth Warren, all of them who are campaigning either for the presidency or re-election, the percentage of money that they got, it's more substantial from their actual district, except for AOC. AOC, it was minuscule. So it was a very interesting point in that regard. I don't actually hear very much about. I think if you actually had a senator or a governor or a mayor who was actually out and out racist, that would be plastered on CNN and run like every 20 seconds, and of course they'll blame Trump for it. And I think the fact that we're not having that, there probably are not that many kind of incidents to point to,
Mm-hmm.
which is exactly why they hype up every mass shooting and all these other types of things. Like there was actually just a mass shooting with a black man, I think in Baltimore or one of these places, and he shot a bunch of cops, one dead, that's 7 other injured.
Philadelphia.
Crickets. It was Philadelphia, right? Crickets on the media. Right, you're not seeing all of these protests.
That was the one that was mentioned on Glorious House of Games podcast, right? Is that what you're talking about?
No, well, I don't remember hearing that. I know they mentioned about some of the shootings. I think I read it on an article online somewhere on Facebook. Somebody posted
that. Vinny at the very end of the podcast does the "This Is America" segment.
Yeah, I remember that. And
he talked about the shooting in Philadelphia.
Yeah, and how the media kind of took it out of context.
Basically, I guess it was a drug bust gone wrong.
Yes,
and the media spun it into active shooter situation.
Yeah, exactly.
And yeah, it was interesting. They're they don't want to make it political, but
but yeah, it's a legitimate point, especially on a drug bust. It's probably illegal guns, which makes the point that all the gun control in the world does not help people who are willing to break the law, right? So,
yeah, I'm starting to see that more and more now. Let's just say I saw a post on Facebook from a friend of ours that said, what was it? So basically compared statistics.
Mm-hmm.
The U.S. has like basically per capita ownership of video games, like how many video games a person owns. US owns this much, Japanese own like way more video games than Americans do.
Right.
So it says, US owns this many, Japanese own this many. That's not the violence. Japanese own this many guns, Americans own this many guns. Yeah, and then the conclusion was, yeah, it's the guns. And I'm like,
I mean, it's the same nonsense I see. Again, somebody we both know, the wife of somebody we're very close to, she posted up recently, it's not a bunch of women that are going out there shooting up people now, is it? And I wanted to say, do you remember Nassim Agdam, who went and shot up YouTube? Like, no, as a matter of fact, as rare as mass shootings are, there have actually been a couple of women that have gone out and done it. But as a matter of fact, it doesn't fit the narrative. It doesn't, it's not all men toxic. Therefore, the media hushed that up so quick. It was just ridiculous. But I obviously I was so tempted to do it, but I knew her husband would just jump all over that,
Yeah. Yeah. Let's just say I'm looking at that post right now.
Oh, you're looking at that post right now.
I was like, wait, which friend are we talking about here?
Yes. That didn't take long.
Yeah, no. Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course. Women aren't the ones. I mean, statistically, women aren't the ones that are shooting up places. Women are just the ones that are, doing other things.
Sure. Women are culpable in a number of things, as we both know.
Yeah, I mean, what was it? Count Dankula's Mad Lad videos. You remember you ever watched those?
Oh yeah, I've seen a couple. I haven't watched Count Dankula in a while though, but I know the series.
Did you ever see the one where he did the one about Bobbit?
Oh, the woman that cut off the guy's penis.
Yeah.
I know the story, but no, I didn't see his take on it.
And how she pretty much got off scot-free.
Yes, which is that's, and I think the guy, he went on to do porn. They actually reattached his penis, and
because they saved him.
They saved him, and it was a world famous penis. So I hopefully he did pretty well.
But no, it's like
she could do that and just get off.
Let's not judge her kinks, okay?
It was some S&M that got out of hand.
Yeah. She was getting off and she got off. But no, I'm just thinking like, so the world, the Western world as we see it is, flipping out. Even like, even when you look at the more reasonable, the non-feminist women who are like calling out the feminist movement, like how could you be, how could the feminist movement be sitting here protesting about women's rights all day when they won't even go to Saudi Arabia or some of these countries where like female genital mutilation, the whole hijab, like the oppression there is very real. Like the feminist movement should go there. But those same women on the fringes of those who are still not feminist, I call them kind of like the strong women types.
Sure. The human rights activist kind of thing.
They'll still probably, because of just Westerners, they'll turn a bit of a blind eye when it comes to like, so Owen Benjamin, back in his earlier material when he talks about, he did this whole bit on this show on the Oxygen channel they have here in the States, the show called Snapped.
Right.
Snapped is a show about women who snap.
Oh, geez,
kill their husbands. And like this is a show that women can watch, and it's like, so he does this scenario. He says, well, Diane was with her Diane was, was a housewife, and her husband John, had to move to another town because of a job, and she was, she had to move away from her friends because she was lonely, and she was sad. So then Diane turns to turns to gambling. And then, Diane, because Diane was lonely. And then, she gets in further and further into debt, and they can't make a mortgage payment. So Diane shoots her husband in the head while he's sleeping. What? And Owen Benjamin basically lays out this, like, she fucked up her life.
Yes.
She got really depressed. So she kills her husband.
Yes.
And then he said, and then this is, so the punchline is his wife, who's watching the show with him, looks over at him and says, "That's what happens." He's like, if you had a guy, like if it was another show where the roles were reversed, it'd be called Monsters.
Exactly. I mean, the horror stories of what I've heard. In fact, I think there was a study recently that shows that the couple that has the most domestic violence is lesbian couples. Women on women have by far and away the most aggressive relationship on the planet, even more than the heterosexual. Yeah, I mean that says a lot in terms of. And again, it should make sense. Women tend to be more emotional, so they react, from those feelings.
There's also that study that talks about the basic survey they did on, like, the mass shooters.
Yes.
I think it was it 80%? Some high majority of percentage where they were fatherless homes, they called it. Basically another way of saying single moms.
Yeah, pretty much. I think 26 of the 27 recent mass shootings have all been single moms.
So in that one of the 27, you have the choices of motherless home, two-parent households,
yes,
and all the other types.
Yeah, same sex, polyamory, whatever.
So statistically, you could say, two-parent households. I think most people can agree. Yeah, two-parent households are better, tend to raise like better contributors to society. And single father homes.
Correct.
But then here's where you can go even further. Two father homes, gay couples.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I mean, we're not saying that a two-family home is necessarily ideal, because we do know they're fucked up kids that come from, there's drugs.
That come from any type of family,
any type of place. But as a general understanding,
statistically, there are some that will generate more problems than fewer problems.
Completely agree.
And that's not to go and say necessarily situations are situations. There's not much you can do, but on a larger scale, that's just how you kind of look at it. Like, I think Rollo Tomasi talked about there was like some study about like just understanding the red pill and kind of seeing how men and women think.
Mm-hmm.
Like raising children, while yes, you can talk about like, whether it's, you got to put in effort to like, raise them, be there for them, spend time with them, things like that. All very important. But for the most part, most of a day-to-day life of a parent is just a logistics problem.
Yes. Yeah.
School, food, lunch, daycare, extracurricular activities, take them to bed, do their laundry, clean, make sure they're doing like babysitting. Raising a kid is mostly logistics. You have the emotional, the heart part of it, but mostly it's logistics.
Sure. I'll get that. And financial,
yeah. The male brain is more suited for that.
Yeah, no, I would completely agree with that, especially when it comes to single moms, where the money goes to the mom, even the child support goes to the mom, and she could spend it on whatever she wants, right? She could spend it on nails, traveling, shoes, whatever.
Right. For the listeners, we're not saying you can do without a mom. The mom, like there's different roles in a two-parent household that they play. But when you look at it like strictly statistically, you have these different these differences, yes, if a boy is raised without a mom, there might be some problems when it comes to more empathetic, sympathetic type of tendencies that he might not develop.
Sure.
He'll probably be pretty detached as a person, I think.
Possibly.
But
Depends on
then
the dad, of course, but sure.
yeah, and then in the reverse, when it's a single mom, you have other problems. You have this I guess a lack of expression of masculinity when it's come to boys.
It's usually a lack of discipline that comes to boys.
There is that too.
Which is what leads to all of these, extreme behaviors. Because, I mean, the whole talk of masculinity right now is centered around, giving men responsibility. In fact, there was a recent article that came out in The Guardian, of all things, I mean, the communist press itself, that talked about it's not a good idea that we've been demonizing men and boys for so long and calling them incels and Nazis and all this other stuff, because you're oppressed. The press is oppressing a class of people, and they can get violent, as we've seen young boys stepping out and doing, these horrendous crimes. But for the first time in, their wokeness, they're kind of realizing, well, maybe we're actually not helping by constantly badgering them and constantly putting them down, and all men are rapists and all this other kinds of stuff. That's a very recent kind of revelation for the left.
Anytime I bring up the conversation of just looking at it as a social issue. So we look at single motherhood as a social issue. People will look at that. We look at abortion as a social issue. You look at a lot of things as these social issues we're dealing with that are coming out of, I talk about the decadence of society.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And one problem that a lot of people just instantly if anything, just to use this term, victim blame is when it comes to the violence of young men.
Yes.
As a result of just this radical shift in the intersexual dynamics in our society.
Yeah.
I'll say like, hey, I'll be with you on MGTOWs and incels being insufferable, stupid, and just losers when it comes to a lot of things. But the fact that they exist is a problem.
It's an expression of a bigger problem. Exactly.
Right. So you're sitting, I'm not telling you need to go sleep with the incels and the MGTOWs. I'm not telling you need to go do all that. I'm talking about these women that like brought this up to. I'm not saying you got to go like, I mean, there's comedians that have joked, fuck them, fuck the kid that could be the mass shooter, that could just save your school kind of thing. It's kind of funny. Yeah. And there might be some truth, but it's like, I'm not telling you to go do that, but understand.
Maybe we should.
Maybe. I mean, I've talked to guys who are like full blown believing like prostitution needs to be a subsidized field.
Yeah, I know a guy like that as well.
Men deserve like, welfare checks directed at getting a prostitute. And I'm like, I mean, if
you're gonna do it, welfare, I say equal rights. What's good for the goose is good for the gander.
But it's funny. I bring that up, and a lot of people immediately like, oh yeah, guys and girls are like, oh yeah, they'll get real quick on the libertarian train regarding welfare when it comes to that.
Right.
But then if I start talking about child support, checks from the state, taking care of moms, single moms and stuff, they're not so quick.
Yeah. Exactly.
Am I saying there could be welfare for MGTOWs and incels? No, but it is a problem that I think like people don't really, it's easily like, well, incels not having sex is not my problem. Yeah, you're right. It's not your problem, but it could be your problem.
Exactly.
Not necessarily like you need to solve it, but it's going to be a problem if, we talk about the 80-20 rule. If that gets stretched and stretched and stretched. I've talked about this way too many times, I feel.
We're seeing it. We're seeing it take place in China right now because of the result of the one-child policy. There aren't enough women, right? I mean, a holocaust of women have been, basically aborted in China over the one-child policy. And there's a disproportionate skew of men to women. And The central government is actually kind of worried about this, because you got all of these men out there and they have no, pair bonding and sexual release at all. So I mean, it's I don't know what they're going to do about it, but it has been a major concern for them. And it's not to say that China doesn't have a very aggressive military, right? So we could be seeing some interesting actions coming out as a result of that. So it's crazy. It's crazy.
Right. Yeah. And so it's weird, like how this is the thing. This is what's wrong, kind of, these social issues. As libertarians, I think it's important you talk about them, not try to push for any like government action, but at the same time, man, I get worried at times, like, and I think we've talked about this. So when we had, what's her name? Caitlin Cloven on a while back. I think I talked to her about this at one point too, about how, libertarians are afraid. We talked about with her too, on the show, like collectivism is such a bad word to libertarians.
Yeah.
Like the idea of working, really just, looking at people as groups and looking not as a way to like, exercise any prejudice or anything, but they're just like, groups of people behave certain ways, or even just working together and having some sort of collective responsibility for whether it's issues in your community or even issues in a larger sense. Having the discussion is important, I think, and people won't even give it that. They just I'll see some posts on Twitter and I'm like immediately just want to like retweet it and be like, this is why MGTOWs exist.
I'm the same. I see, talk about the dumpster fires that we're in. The WhatsApp group that I'm in with these other women, I mean, that's pretty much convincing me like, oh my God, all women are trash. Like, it's just a horror show.
It is so easy. And I'll admit, it is very easy to just kind of let yourself slide into not giving a shit about women ever again.
Yeah. It is very easy, very tempting in that respect. In fact, I had a conversation with one of the girls. Just no self-awareness, none, not a scrap of it.
Person you told me about?
The person I told you about.
Yeah.
Right. She comes to me for advice because she wants to hear the male perspective and whatever. And she's on Tinder or Bumble or one of these apps, and she meets this guy. Sorry, she matches with this guy, whoever he is, and they have a couple conversations. Now the guy is a professional. He works in some kind of emergency response medical, like a paramedic or something along those lines.
Okay.
Very busy man. He was in the military, disciplined, and all this different kinds of stuff. So she and him have had a number of pretty deep, lengthy conversations, chats on the app for a couple hours. And he's called her once or twice. They've never met. They've never slept together. And at some point, she gets very frustrated that he doesn't respond as quickly as she wants.
Oh.
And then she sends him this big lecture. Like, this is who I am. I have these responsibilities. She's a single mom as well. She's got this kid, and she's really hoping that, something could develop. But if it is that he's not going to give her, a timely response, she doesn't want to have anything to do with it. And the guy basically responds a couple hours later, like, okay, I thought we were in, the same page. I thought we were understanding each other, but this seems like a lot of drama. I'm coming off this app. And he disappears. And she calls me to figure out what the fuck happened. Like,
you ever see you ever see those screenshots of men who do something similar?
Oh yeah. I've seen a number of screenshots.
I see all these, like, so it's the guy's like, hi, how are you? Hi, I'm doing well. And then it's like, it's basically like the problem with, he sends a message, no response. Sends another, no response. And he like immediately, within 2 or 3 messages goes from hi, how are you, beautiful, to you fucking bitch, you entitled son, just the whole thing.
I've done that in the past. Yeah.
I think
quite right, Brian.
Yeah. Solipsism. You think that's more prevalent in men or women?
What, the lashing out?
Yeah.
Probably in men, because men don't have as many options. People who do that don't have a lot of options, which is fine. And I admit, I did that when I first got out here, because I had great success in a lot of other countries with dating. I was dating like 3 and 4 girls a week and all this kind of stuff. But when I got here, obviously I'm in competition with a lot of much greater men. This is London, man. I mean, fucking everybody's here. And it was frustrating for me because I'm so accustomed to female company and all this other kinds of stuff. But let's just be real. I'm in competition and I'm not at the top of the echelon out here. I was an expat. I'm shorter than most of these women expect, and all of this other kind of stuff. And yeah, a couple of times I got really frustrated, and I did exactly that. And I did finally get a response, right? When I kind of flipped my shit.
A good response?
No, it wasn't a good response. I basically we call it a Latin lover. When you know you got nothing to lose, you just go crazy and see what happens. It's self-destructive behavior to see if you might get a reaction.
Kind of break the boy, what would you call it? It wouldn't be the glass ceiling for us.
It's not. It's just to see if you get a reaction. And because women like to argue, they're not as pragmatic as men, men would just block or just end the conversation. Women want to say their piece. So you tend to get a response, and that could lead into a conversation kind of thing.
That then kind of makes me go, oh.
Yeah, it's risky, but if you got nothing to lose, fuck it. Just go ahead and do that.
Yeah, no, I don't think I've gotten close to it, and I can see the sentiment.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's weird. Anyway, so it's I think, what was it? There's someone I saw a tweet. It says most men are so starved for attention that even the most basic compliment from a woman gives them the impression that the woman is really interested.
I saw that today as well. Some obviously a mutual friend of ours said that on Twitter or Facebook or something.
And I saw that and I'm like, I don't think people really understand that.
No, they don't.
They'll see that and go, oh yeah, but they're not like really realizing that. And that's the difference now, is you have this higher selective behavior with how women choose their men, that they will only give a small handful of the time of day. Like, and this is just across the board. Now you have a lot of these guys that they get even just the slightest bit of attention from someone.
Yeah.
And
I'll take it even further than that. That one of the girls in the dumpster fire, this WhatsApp group, that I'm pretty much sure that, I mean, it's on mute for a year at this point, but I'm getting out of this fucking thing. One of the girls has been getting messages from a guy that she matched on one of these apps for half a year, like 6 months. And every couple months, he'd be like, hey, how are you? Hey, what's going on? And it's just like a fucking stream on her like her chat box. She doesn't even respond. And this guy is not giving up. So she's not even responding. And he's still hooked on this chick. That's pretty fucking pathetic.
We can say that.
Yeah.
But we understand why.
We know why. And this is what I try to explain.
And I don't think we could ever say we never, ever had anything close to that before.
No, I was never that bad. I don't think I was,
But I mean, but you can understand, like.
Totally understand it. And the girl is pretty hot. So I understand if you matched with this pretty young thing, why you would not close the door on it, right? Fully understand that. But it contrasts. One woman has no self-awareness, right? The one that had the whole thing with the paramedic. She had the audacity to ask me, well, what happened? And I'm like, well, first of all, if he's as good looking and whatever, as you say, he's like all her criteria, 6 foot, military, probably jack tan, juicy as fuck, working hard as a paramedic. I mean, this is fucking alpha male. Believe me, he's being hit up by 16 other women on that app just like her. And the fact is, he's not fucking you. But you want to give him a lecture and treat him like a boyfriend, and he's not your boyfriend. You haven't earned that space in his life. don't be surprised that he cuts you off, right? No self-awareness. And I tried to explain that to her, and I'd be like, look, I mean, she's in her late 30s. He's probably being hit up by 25-year-olds. Why is he going to choose you? And she's like, I still got it. And I'm like, you can say you still got it, but believe me, your 25-year-old self has it more than you, and you are not your 25-year-old self. Just no self-awareness. And then you flip the script to this other girl. I hope she's not playing this game. I don't know if she is or isn't. She has her own issues. She matches with these guys who maybe not having options, but lacking options. And you see the flip side, which is they're willing to hang on any thread. They haven't been unmatched or blocked yet. That's a yes, and they'll keep going. You got both sides of the extreme.
Oh, Stefan Molyneux's comment on lipstick. You see that?
No, I haven't seen that.
He made a post basically saying, I mean, Stefan kind of is a little, he words things really weird, and I think he goes a little, he's I guess the social media equivalent of liking the sound of his own voice.
Right.
So he basically did this whole post about like in a nutshell, women wear lipstick for attention.
Right.
But he said it in a way that was like really just starting something.
Well, yeah, he's a provocateur in that sense.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes, it's not that sometimes he's just posting something that's not true. It's just the way he posts it and the way he goes about it. I'm like, just straight up say it. Like, women wear lipstick for attention. But then that's probably not as, controversially sounding.
Well, I mean, we have that conversation all the time. Is a woman that's wearing makeup just being herself?
Exactly.
And by the way, listeners, never just be yourself, right?
Well, I mean, let's dive into that a bit. What does that mean then, being yourself versus not being yourself?
Right. The whole premise, and this, Rollo Tomasi actually spells it out really good in The Rational Male. Women always, well, first of all, never take advice on relationships from women.
True.
Period. Not even your mother.
But I'm more concerned with the definitions. What does it mean to be yourself?
Right. So women come up with this skewed perspective because, again, they have to be selective, right? And they know they're susceptible to game, right? That is like the superpower that men have over women. They know how to get the biology working in their favor through confidence, negs, all that kind of stuff. So game is very important, and it supersedes a lot of this other stuff. So as a protective mechanism, women will say, well, just be yourself. And that serves women. That doesn't serve men, because being yourself means they're not going to, be susceptible to your game.
Well, what if game is yourself?
Well, then that's the catch-22 for them. But let's be real. If somebody had that kind of game, they wouldn't need any kind of advice. They'll know what to do, right?
Right, because I hear the whole be confident, be yourself. And I'm like, well, I mean, if you're yourself, which is a man, and you're a man, and you're confident, which is just confidence is, demonstrating confidence gives the impression you have options.
Yes.
Then those are true things. But then if you're just...
Sure, if that's who you are. But what they're screening out is somebody who isn't confident, who doesn't have the traits that they're looking for. They don't want them to apply games so that they waste time and energy on somebody who they don't know, like somebody who doesn't appear to be who they are, or perceived to be. So we said, like, should I just be myself if all I do is play video games in the basement and eat pizza and watch porn?
So I talked to you about, we'll just say that friend of mine that I have that lives here.
Yes.
That's dating a girl, and she read the Rational Male.
Yes.
And we were talking about agree and amplify.
Yes.
Just some conversation. Oh, I was telling him about Jonathan from Modern Life Dating. He did a whole Twitch stream where he was talking to these different girls and another guy, like it was like a popularity contest. Like,
right.
He's explaining why he's a dating coach, and this guy and these girls are like ganging up on him, and then he just plays agree and amplify with all the chicks.
Yeah.
And so I'm explaining this, and so my friend's girlfriend who's there in our chat, and she's like, it's a video chat, and she's like, what's that? And then he's like looking at me like, don't tell her. And I'm like, oh, come on, Green Amplify, it's not even that big of a like, because but then she started saying like, what other tricks are you playing? And he goes, it's not tricks.
No, it's not. It's understanding the female nature.
Like communicate, like when I talk to people and stuff, and I tend to like analyze how people communicate, and so I'll communicate differently with different people.
Yes.
That's not a trick. It's just
no.
Having the, if you want to say, the wisdom to like work with people, to like be able to better communicate ideas. Like I understand, sometimes I'm a little critical of how people communicate, but I hope to like help people. Like, okay, if you say this thing in this way, people are going to think you're like this.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
That's the thing, is like game is really just another way of like presenting yourself.
Correct.
Which is not necessarily taking away from being yourself. It's just presenting yourself in a way that women find attractive.
Correct. So, I mean, in the red pill community, they say you're controlling the frame. And that's exactly it. You are controlling the means in which you're being introduced. And as you say, it has to do with confidence. It has to do with body language, tone, the nags, kind of playfully putting her down, all those different types of things to convey status and the subtext of the conversation.
Yeah. It's like, yes, these are methods, but it's not like a trick. Like, we're
for some people it is. Some people it really is, because you can do all of those things and still not be relationship material, although the woman will sleep with you. And that, of course, we bring up Mystery, who, met the love of his life, Tatiana, or whatever the fuck her name was. And, this is a guy who scored hundreds and maybe thousands of women, who alone knows, master at game, terrible at the long game. He just had no sense of how to do an LTR, a long-term relationship.
Well, he had no sense of himself either.
Exactly, because he was so wrapped up in the identity of Mystery, he did not know how to translate that into a long-term relationship. And that is why women say be yourself, because it saves them the drama of hooking up with you because of game and the way you've presented yourself, to find out that's not who you are. It serves us. Game serves us. Just be yourself serves women, because they don't want to have to put up with game. That's the thing. And even for myself, just quickly.
Yeah.
When I go out to do that, like to go out and meet, like I really don't do it anymore. I do it if I'm with friends and my friends want to meet some women. I'll be like, all right, I get myself into a frame of mind, alpha as fuck, and I do the hype talk, and everything changes in terms of my thought process. And it's game on, and you go out, you do that. And generally I get the interest of the girl and I bring her to whoever, wants to meet her and stuff like that. But I do have to switch it on. It's not something I do all the time. So yeah. Am I being myself? I don't know.
I know last time we were hanging out when you were here, I could see you kind of doing that a little bit.
Yeah.
I was at least aware enough that I was like, oh, I know what you're doing. Like,
yeah.
Most guys with enough awareness can kind of see other guys doing it.
Yes.
So I think that brings a little credit to the idea that game is, it is intuitive in a way.
It becomes intuitive.
It is something, but I think it's something that like our biology recognizes it. So like when we see it, there's something about it that's like, I know what you're doing. Like,
yes.
It's not like I know exactly what you're doing. It's like I know what you're doing. I just don't know like why though.
Correct.
Most guys when they learn about even just the most basic types of things in game, they're like, why does this like make sense?
Because it's the biology. It's speaking to our primordial self. And this is the one thing I'll coin. David D'Angelo did a lot for me back in the day, but David D'Angelo coined the phrase that attraction is not a choice. We don't choose whom we're attracted to. It just kind of happens. And we hear women say it all the time. I don't know what happened. It just happened, and all this shit that they say, right? And because attraction is not a choice, it's almost like an instinctive connection. If a man knows how to trigger attraction in a woman, she's really not in control. That's the key. That is the crux of the matter. And women don't like not being in control. It's always why, when a woman goes out and she sleeps with you on the first date or sleeps with you and stuff like that, they always say, I'm not the kind of girl to do this sort of thing. Right? Right? Because they don't want the slut moniker put on them. And when they go and they tell the story of what happened, it just happened, she wasn't there spreading her legs saying, fuck me, Yeah, it just happened, he just slipped, fell, and landed between her legs. It's just whimsical because they never want to take responsibility for the fact of what's going on, that they succumbed to game. They were seduced. And no woman wants to admit that.
There was someone I worked with a while back, a manager, and him and his wife work together. And he comes to work one day and tells us, his wife's pregnant. And so we're all, congratulations and all this. And he's just, and it was just funny because he said, all these women came up and asked me, like, oh, congrats on being, she got pregnant. How did it happen? Like, apparently that was a really common question he got. And he's sitting here like, how the fuck do you think it happened? And he just, and he said this, he said he'd tell people this, I dicked her.
Yeah.
And it's like, when it comes to these matters, it's almost like, oh, it's just, it happened. And
it just happened.
You don't know how things happen.
It's like, yeah, she parted her legs, and you went in for a landing. That's what it is. But it's the same thing, because especially in the West, maybe more in the US, the stigma of being a slut and promiscuous is kind of frowned upon. Women don't particularly like it because you're giving away the goods for free. It means, they have to give it up too if they want to be competitive. And generally, men don't marry women like that unless they feel they have no options. So there is still kind of a stigma attached to the idea of being a slut. Now, everybody wants to be slutty, but not nobody wants to be called a slut. And that's why game and seduction and all these kinds of things is so prevalent and so powerful, because it's a way to kind of dodge the responsibility. And that's ironically, a lot of women want that. They want the seduction to be like, I don't know. I just don't know what happened. I was there with him and then we just started kissing and I don't know. And all this bullshit, right? That's what they want, because it takes the pressure off of that. And the clear sign of that, if ever you're in a position and you're making out with a chick and you're in the house and, if things are getting hot and heated, there's always like a last minute resistance that the woman will put up. Right. So you might be, clothes might be coming off a little bit. She might be topless. You're making out, you kind of go in for your belt and whatever. And you've come this far. You're in the man's apartment. You know what's going on. And suddenly she's like, oh, no. And she kind of pushes you off like, no. She's trying to resist, right? She's trying to resist and put up a fight. And most men will just be like, no, baby, it's okay. And they'll put it off. But if you're in that position, the best thing to do is actually to stop everything. You just, you flop back in your chair and like you grab the remote to put on the TV and just completely stop off. And the minute you do that, she realizes she's fucked up and she has to now initiate to continue. She wants it to continue, but she now has to put in the effort. And that's like last minute game and stuff like that. It's very funny, but they all do it.
Maybe next time I just need to just pull out my phone and be like, all right.
Yeah. The minute she says, oh no, I'm not that kind of girl. I don't want to do that. Just stop. Just put the brakes on completely, like from 100 to 0. But she's enjoying it, making out, getting a little frisky and stuff. Of course she's enjoying it. But she has to put up that front. Like, I'm a good girl. I'm not a slut. Yeah, I've slept with Tyrone, Chad, and the entire football team, but I'm not a slut, She has to put up that pretense. But it's bullshit. Hey, what's going on, Donovan?
Yeah.
We have to see if we could get a dating guy to come on at some point. I'll see if I can. Yeah, a guy to give some advice to guys out there who want to get into game and relationships and stuff like that. I know somebody. I'll see if I can talk to him. I think it'd be an interesting conversation to help the guys out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think so.
But all right, man.
Yeah.
Brooke starts talking about game.
I mean, I was good at it back in the day. I was really good at it. It's the game has completely changed now, and I'm at a disadvantage being in the UK. Even Richard Cooper just put out a video talking about the double standards in dating, and he talked about the 6'6s, which is 6 feet tall, 6-figure income. Was it 6-pack abs? I can't remember the rest of them. Whatever.
Hell, if you want to get all biblical, it was a woman who got deceived.
Yeah, and the Apostle Paul reminded people of that in the New Testament. So, yeah, it was really something. I mean, beyond that, every biblical character, save Joseph, all fell because of a woman. Right? Samson, strongest man. Solomon, the wisest man. The first man, Adam. Who else? You can just think of them. All of them. Anyway, let's not go down that road. That's just
to say,
yeah, the only one was Joseph. He ran from Pharaoh's wife, and he still ended up in prison, so he couldn't win.
David.
Yeah, David and Bathsheba, of course. I mean, they made a fucking movie out of that.
They did?
Yeah. I think Richard Gere is in it or something. I can't remember. But yeah, King David, he was the same thing.
I mean, depending upon how you want to perceive how much of a pussy Judas was, Jesus.
Yeah, maybe. But yeah, it's an interesting discussion.
Yeah, that maybe bring that up with the red pill religion guys.
I might actually do a video on that. I might do a video on that on my Christian channel. But I still see it's growing. It just reached 500 subscribers, so I don't really put out much content on it. But I might do that and start a series on red pill stuff in Christianity.
See what happens. That's not gonna cause any.
That's not controversial at all.
More controversial than the stuff we used to talk about.
Not really. And all that stuff is still there too.
But man, what else is going on? Oh yeah, man. Autopsy revealed Epstein's neck was broken.
I heard about that. I saw that Tim Pool did a video. I didn't watch it,
but
so more information and something about his cellmate wasn't there or something.
So I heard apparently because Epstein's older, there is like a condition. What is it called?
Like osteoporosis sort of thing?
No. What is it? Shit, I forgot. It was something along the lines of basically in old age, like your bones are more susceptible to breaking, like especially in the neck. Like your neck is easier to break or something.
Right.
Granted, it's one explanation, and it's not like it's 100% like all the time happens, but it can.
Yes.
So they were saying that is definitely possible, to kind of to keep things balanced instead of just straight up going to, someone fucking broke his neck on purpose.
To try and stave off the incoming warriors from InfoWars.
Exactly.
The army of Alex Jones that are, coming for the Epstein evidence.
But yeah.
That's pretty crazy. Have you heard that Mia Khalifa is trying to get a job?
That's what I was just remembering actually when we were talking.
Yes.
She's got this whole interview out now, basically trying to dispel the whole thing of like trying to basically rewrite history on her involvement with porn.
Yes, exactly.
She tried playing it up like, I was only in it for like 4 months. Like, so there was the whole radio interview she was going to be in on the sports. You remember the sports radio show where she just like absolutely loses her shit.
Yes.
Basically, you get this guy on a radio show, and it's like the video footage they do with the radio show. He's talking, and he's like, she was, this. And he goes, it's really interesting because porn stars, this and that. He goes, yeah, and she was like the #1 porn star on like Pornhub for like 2 years or something.
Yes.
And like it was just, she became a bit of a meme too, just because of that. It was just like, oh, just some like, and then there was the whole, because she was Lebanese, she got like death threats from like very conservative kind of hardline Muslims and such.
No, she's a Christian.
She was a Christian?
She's a Christian, Lebanese Christian. Lebanese and Syria tend to be Christians.
Christian.
Yeah, well, granted.
So she goes on this whole thing, and she was, somehow in 4 months she generated more content than most people generate in a whole entire career.
Right. Yeah.
So she does this whole thing. So he introduces her and it says, well, it's really interesting because you have these like porn stars and types that are like really into sports too. So she gets into the sports realm and sports commentating, where she actually had like good takes and things that people wanted to hear about. It wasn't just because, granted, the porn star clout is going to carry over.
Yeah, popularity is popularity. There's no such thing as bad publicity.
She wasn't just like full of hot air.
Yeah, she actually knew some stuff then,
and or silicone for that matter. But she does. So she goes on, and like he's like giving her this whole intro about like her as a porn star, her now as like a sports kind of commentating person, and she just flips the fuck out because like goes onto the radio show saying "fuck you" and I wasn't even in porn that long. I was only in for 4 months, but basically like "fuck you" for calling me a porn star.
Right.
Like,
but you were a porn star.
and then he's like looking around after she like straight up hangs up on him, and he's like looking at his co-host like, what
the hell just happened?
Like, I thought I was talking about the truth. Like, I wasn't, can't talk about like well-known facts about you.
And I mean, he used her real name. It wasn't like she insisted on a pseudonym or something like that, right?
Her real name is known by everybody.
Right. So yeah, it's not exactly like a hidden thing, but this is again is that typical behavior again, because they want to play the victim. They don't want to take responsibility for their actions. As you say, she's trying to rewrite history as if,
went from this little girl with, so she was like this little Lebanese girl with like, barely half decent looking kind of girl, and she got some breast enlargement surgery, went into porn, became most popular porn star on Pornhub for like 2 or 3 years or something, and still up there somehow. People watching her stuff, became a meme. And then she went to sports commentating, and then the last thing I remember I heard was a hockey puck hit one of her tits, and then it like deflated.
Yeah, it had to be replaced. I heard that.
Fixed, and then she's engaged.
Oh, is she?
Yeah. Imagine marrying that.
I mean, rock stars, like if you've got a huge notch count, like, somebody out of Motley Crue or something like that, you've slept with like 1,000 women. You don't care. You don't really care if, she's a porn star.
Though?
What's that?
The reverse of a woman being that?
Well, this is the whole thing, is that porn stars and rock stars tend to hook up. I think like Terry Patrick, kind of half Asian woman.
He wasn't really from the
Not
guy.
Big. Not a big, no, I mean in terms of music. I didn't mean in terms of his dick or anything.
No, the guy she's like engaged to. I've never heard of this guy before.
I don't know who that is. Who is
some like guy that's basically like got a like. Most of his body is tattoos. Just some guy she met.
Yeah, that tends to be the case.
And like, there's this whole like, and the way she's presenting him, it's like he's like a big old cuck.
He's a big old cock.
Yeah, just it seems to pedestalize her and stuff. Anyways,
all right. Let me see. To Chef Boy. I'm looking on the internet now to see Robert Sandberg. Who the fuck is this?
Exactly.
Sandberg, sorry. Robert Sandberg. He's a chef. Oh boy. Okay. Well, I will definitely be reading this article later.
Anyway, so yeah, they got engaged, and it's just like the ultimate just denial of just, hey, she's had like
at least half the world has seen between her legs and seen her naked. You know, maybe some people might be really into that.
Probably been in there.
Yeah. I mean, maybe he's into that. Maybe that's a thing.
I mean, it was just like, I'll just say from my research,
yeah,
she like not only just slept with like other, obviously they have sex with other porn stars, but just there was even stuff out there of her just doing shit with like fans.
Really?
Yeah.
Like real fans or fake fans?
I don't know. There was like some videos of her like with like these nerdy looking guys, like legitimately nerdy looking guys, and she like just fucked around with them. Like, what, did they pay her a lot or something? But it's just,
it's possible.
She wasn't, it wasn't even like, being, well, however you define professional, but it wasn't even like professional. It was just like, oh, just fucking and making a video with anyone I come across kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. It's, I mean, even there's professional amateur porn, right? Like out here in the UK, we have something called the fake taxi. And
I don't know anything about that.
Yeah, of course. This is why I'm telling you. Right. And it's, I mean, you see it, we see it. It was in this, my community not that long ago.
Why did you hop on? No.
But I mean, it's a skit. It's a production company. They make porn videos, and basically they pick up girls, and the driver takes them to this secluded place, and they have sex in the back of the car, right? And it's always like, supposed to be like a typical everyday girl, and it just kind of happens, kind of thing. But all those people are porn stars. Everybody's being paid. It's
right,
professional amateur kind of thing. So I don't know if that is her story, but I did find the she put out the figure of how much money she made from the video. If I'm not mistaken, I think she had one of those kind of premium Snapchats as well. And
she she has a Patreon right now.
Does she?
Yeah.
Hold on. She's got a Patreon,
and she sells calendars, and
more
she does photo shoots, and yeah, totally married and all that.
She's married. She is married then.
Well, no, engaged. I'm sorry. Just like you're about to be married, and you're still doing all this. And
she's got 507 patrons. Fucking hell.
So
live streams, posters, videos. Okay. I see what's going on.
It's like if I see some of these, like, we'll just say internet thoughts that are out there and they do this, Patreon, or there's this page called OnlyFans. People just post nudes there for like $20 a month or something. And you see that, like, a lot of these women are just, they're all like, they're on their own. They're single. They're, they're doing a business. And it's like, whatever you want to remember the thought audit. It's like, outside of that, it's like, yeah, you're doing something, you're selling something, great, more power to you. But now it's like you get someone like this, and she's engaged, and all this. It's like, man,
it's not the first. I mean, again, Tara Patrick was married, and she kept making porn with her husband, and they used to bring in girls. So like, apparently the stipulation was she could sleep with any girl she wanted, but she could only fuck him. There these very bizarre relationship dynamics that happen with porn stars. That's all I could say.
Yeah. I'm thinking like that kind of works.
But it seemed to. I don't know if they're still married. I don't know, honestly. I'm not following. I used to be a huge fan back in the day. I'm not, she's getting old now, but
yeah.
It's a very messed up life, man. And this other woman, she was in porn. She got out and she married the son of a preacher. Shelley Lubin, that was her name.
Oh, was this one of those born again porn stars?
Born again porn star. Yeah. So she became a Christian. Well, like rededicated her life to being a Christian. And she started the whole some kind of, anti-porn.
The Triple X Church?
No, that's a different one. But
Yeah.
it was some kind of anti-porn thing. And she was telling
not a totally popular tactic used in churches.
But the ironic thing is, I think they're getting a divorce now.
Well, that was
Shelley Rubin has divorced her husband.
Rolo's talked about this, kind of like the whole, just the born again thing. Like it's just you get these porn stars that basically, they did their couple years of being some, porn star, and then they get all, well, I mean, used up, burnt, blown out, however you want to perceive that. And then they go to a church. That church becomes so popular because this porn star like totally rededicated her life. And then the pastor totally wants to get with her and thinks it's totally justified and it's fine because, she's all born again. Jesus wipes her sins and her damage away.
I don't know if you saw, who was it that put that out? One of the Red Pill guys put out a tweet talking about the women in Saudi Arabia. Did you see this? He was talking, I can't remember if it was, I think it might have been Goldman Unleashed. I might be wrong. But he basically said he was talking game with these guys in Saudi Arabia, and they've got money, they've got connections and stuff like that. And he says, again, in Saudi Arabia is a Muslim country and whatever the case is. And the guy was basically saying, is like, bro, the women in Saudi Arabia are complete fucking sluts. They go and they fuck around, and just before they get married, they fly to the US to reinstall a hymen, and they fly back and pretend to be virgins. It's that level of deception going on. Yeah. That's what we're up against. I guess that's the Muslim equivalent to, the born again experience.
The born again experience.
Speaking on that, have you, we got about 10 minutes here. Project Veritas and the Google expose. Have you seen anything about this?
Oh, they're like, because they've released videos over the years. They brought to light the whole shadow banning thing, a lot of different things like that. What do they come out with now?
Yeah, I think the last guy that they got from Google came out. Actually, he feared for his life apparently, and he instigated a dead man's switch in case Google or anybody else actually took him out. And he has a number of documents and other things, basically highlighting how they, like Google and Facebook, well, Google at least, have been blacklisting people and like instigating, their bias against conservatives and stuff. And they actually pulled up a blacklist. So there were a number of like websites and stuff like that will not show up if you start typing in the search, like in the Google box. The suggestions come up. And included in that were, of course, InfoWars, Breitbart, I think like Newsbusters or something like that. A lot of the conservative, as well as other things, like a lot of porn sites and stuff, and the torrent website didn't show up as well. But they basically included all of these. Sorry?
I can go to InfoWars.
Yeah, but you can go to it, of course. They can't stop you from going to InfoWars, but it's not going to show up in the search.
But then, okay, let me see here.
Right. You get the suggestions. Yeah, they can't block you from going to the website. That's out of their control.
Best Buy and then it shows me bestbuy.com. But if I go InfoWars well, I just went there, so it knows.
It knows, yeah. So, but yeah, they showed the list of a lot of the conservative sites that were, basically were not allowed to be suggested and recommended and stuff like that. So yeah, it's heating up. And the guy apparently dropped off a number of documents to the Department of Justice as well. So it's going to be a very interesting couple of weeks out there in the US.
So actually, real quick, another thing too. Did you want to go further in that?
No. I mean that's we're waiting on more updates, but it is a
Talked
fascinating
about this
reveal.
last night for me, this morning for you.
Mm,
Thailand in China.
right. Yeah.
So I
I mean,
read that article.
you read the article. Go ahead.
Thailand is basically sending troops. They're using their military to go into Hong Kong to basically secure and try to like get out their citizens.
Yes.
And I read it because I didn't. I just read, they're going in there to get citizens. They didn't say theirs. Granted, it's probably implied it's their citizens, but
Yeah, Thai people.
so but it's military that's going in there, right?
Yes, that was the stipulation. Correct.
What is China doing about this?
We don't know.
So, which is where I got that concern. I told you, and I kind of got a little, little bit of anarchy in me rising up. But I was, a little bit of wanting some chaos to happen. Thailand putting their forces into Hong Kong, which is obviously a very crazy place right now.
Yes.
No one really knows what's going to happen. So, someone even said it could be a Tiananmen Square 2.0 kind of thing.
Could be.
China's mobilizing military assets into Hong Kong to suppress the unrest.
Are they actually in Hong Kong though? And I know there's like a lot of stuff on the border kind of thing.
Pictures of like trucks and stuff going at the border, I think, at least.
Yeah, I think I don't know if they're in Hong Kong as of yet.
So my concern was, and I guess theory you could almost say, is Thai military and Chinese military possibly having a little friction in Hong Kong if they do clash.
Possible.
Because they could just see it as you have military on our what they perceive to be their territory.
Yes.
And they're like, you're not, their thought is you're not supposed to be here and you're not supposed to see what's going on here.
Yes.
I mean, the world knows, but China's going to do everything it can to try to limit what the world knows.
I agree.
And they could see anyone sending any other country's military assets in there for whatever reason as trying to learn of things they shouldn't know about.
Possible. I mean, the U.S. is an ally with Thailand, I would imagine. Not very close, but I would assume, yeah, they're probably on better terms than the Chinese.
But then you have Hong Kong's connection, obviously, to the UK.
Well, previous connection to the UK. It's not great at the moment. The UK can't do anything really.
And of course, I mean, you have people in Hong Kong that are like starting to espouse like American principles of like freedom and liberty,
showing the flag and other things. I've seen some videos.
Saying we need Second Amendment rights.
Ironic, isn't it?
All these things. So this is all happening, and I'm just thinking, knowing how unstable a situation can become if military groups are involved.
I think I agree it's a tinderbox. I agree that the tension it could spark off at any minute. I'm trying to figure out, okay, the Thais are going in to basically evacuate their citizens. Yeah. And to be fair, like when I was in Trinidad and Tobago and when I became a British citizen, I registered with the embassy. And if any shit went down in Trinidad, an aircraft carrier would have come off and like Green Berets would have come to my house and escorted me to the airport and got me out of the country. Right. And that's even the Americans. When we had the coup back in 1990, back in Trinidad and Tobago, it was like the only Islamic coup in the Western Hemisphere. A aircraft carrier from the United States parked offshore and every American citizen was contacted and they were ready to evacuate them.
Granted, your coup wasn't run by like one of the largest.
Oh no, I agree. Yeah. The Jamaat al-Muslimin is not ISIS or something. It's so it's not
ISIS. It still wouldn't be as big as China.
No. But this is the point, the distinction I'm making. When there is civil conflict brewing, it is not uncommon for governments around the world to instigate an evacuation of their citizens, of their people. So that's not totally unprecedented. We know about the ties. I don't know if we know about anybody else. I don't think the Americans would publicize that. I think they'll keep it very quiet because, of course, the US and China right now are not exactly chumming up with each other. And I suspect pretty much every other Western government in the world is probably doing the same thing covertly. They're keeping it quiet. They're contacting the expats through the embassies and probably evacuating their citizenship quietly. But at any point, you're so right. At any point, there's nothing to keep China from moving in on Hong Kong. Nothing. You know, it's actually supposed to be the British are supposed to kind of uphold the freedoms of Hong Kong. But I'll just be real. The British don't have a fucking army that could do shit, right? You know, like day one of military training in the UK, they tell you if we went to war with America, we'd lose, right? And China may not have the most advanced technology, but they got fucking numbers. They got enough people there the army alone is like what, a couple 100 million people or whatever it is. Or maybe not 100 million, but it's millions. It's millions of people in the military. They could just flood Hong Kong and that would be the end of it. And there really isn't any force that could stop it except the Americans, and the Americans don't want to go into some kind of conflict with China. It would be the Russian Crimea annexation all over again, and nothing happened with that. So there isn't like Russia moved into Crimea. Europe farted on itself. It shit its pants. The US did nothing. It'll be the same thing. If China moves into Hong Kong with forces, nobody's going to do anything, and they know it, which is why they're posturing.
Yeah, someone just brought up the point, like, you know, by moving into Hong Kong, it could start something because of the region. It's such a move by China and what Thailand is capable, you know, Thailand and China would be capable of doing, and it's just, you never know what could happen. It could all just,
I mean, I think economic sanctions will be the response, similar to Russia. When Russia moved into Crimea, everybody slapped sanctions on them, and I think that could affect China tremendously.
Right.
Yeah. We need more information. Who's our man on the ground?
We don't. Well, I mean, we could message some people.
We could. What's going on there. I mean, you got some Taiwanese friends who might be hearing rumblings from the ground, sort of thing. Maybe
not in Taiwan.
I mean, they might be hearing and seeing things more than we are. So I don't know if that's the case, but yeah, I agree. It could be bad, and if it does play out like that, and I suspect it will, the economic sanctions on China could be crippling.
Yeah.
Yeah, if it's it's one thing for the US to slap tariffs on them, but if Europe, as well as like North America and like all major trading blocks and stuff like that, slap sanctions on China, that could be fucking devastating for the country.
Right.
And that could kick off something.
Trying to theorize too much, I guess.
Yeah, it could mean the breakup of China. It literally could be, which I think might actually be the best thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Anyways, anything you want to add quick before we go?
No, we could have gone on for like another half an hour, man. I was just getting warmed up.
Anyways, but yeah, thank everyone for joining us once again. Yeah, we'll definitely have to pick up on this next, probably Sunday. Let's pick up on this.
Yeah.
Hopefully more information comes out. Exactly. Yeah, thank everyone for joining us. Definitely check out our previous live streams, previous episodes here on the channel, as well as subscribe to us on iTunes and Google Play. Follow both of us on social media. I'm at Amos Joe. Brooke is at Brooke_Potter. That's who we are on Twitter. And of course, check all the links below. Like I said, subscribe to the channel, comment, and like the video. Also, there's that whole little bell thing, I guess people are supposed to click so they can follow us when we go live. But We will be back, of course, on Sunday, 11 a.m. Central Time. And yeah, thank everyone for watching.
Thanks for watching, everyone.
And